Hi, Chris Mc Loone here with Fire Apparatus and Emergency Equipment. Welcome to this episode of Talking Trucks, our first one for 2026. And we're going to get we're going to start off with a bang this year. We've got Ricky Riley as always, but we also have another guest today. This is Firefighter Jason Lloyd, and I'm going to let him talk about himself in just a second here. But here is what we are going to be talking about today. This beautiful Mack tiller truck that's got quite a bit of history. We're going to talk about where it's stored because, as I've said many times, Ron Heel, one of our editorial advisors, he used to talk to me all the time about how to acquire antiques and things like that. But the real challenge is not necessarily acquiring it; it's where do you put it once you have it. And this has got a real cool story to go along with that. So, Jason, why don't you just to start us off, just tell me about yourself. Tell everybody about yourself, your fire service career, and I guess kind of how you got into antiques.
Okay. Um, well, my name is Jason Lloyd. I live in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and I'm actually fifth generation firefighter. Most of my family was volunteer. My grandfather was paid. My oldest son is now paid, but basically, I was just always into history, and I came up to Harrisburg to go to college. And while I was living at a local firehouse, a Progress Fire Company, I found out about the Allison Hook and Ladder, and it was an old city firehouse that was closed down in the '80s, and that kind of started my journey with this fire truck and firehouse. Um, just always into collecting, antiquing. When I got hired in Harrisburg, obviously that got amplified. But really, I didn't even know about the truck initially. Um, I started when I got hired. Well, prior to getting hired, I even started investigating the firehouse. It was about the only one in the city that wasn't being used by a civic group or something like that. So I actually started out looking for a firehouse instead of a fire truck. Um, the fire, that's a whole nother story, but basically over years trying to get it didn't seem like it was going to happen. And I talked to the historian, Dave Halsey, one time and asked if there was any other rigs or anything related to the Harrisburg Fire Department that maybe I could pursue. Had been collecting items, badges and ribbons were my first hook. So he said that the Allison tiller was actually still around. Like most East Coast cities, Harrisburg runs everything into the ground. I mean, we just use it until it's basically just a piece of scrap. And most of our rigs over the years went to the scrap yard. But found out that this truck was still alive and started investigating it. He said that a lady had purchased it in the '90s, and she would probably never sell it. I said, well, okay. I said, like everything, I'll send her a letter and see what she's got to say. So a little backstory on this truck. The Harrisburg City Fire Department bought it brand new in 1957 from Mack. Cost a little over $39,000. It was our first hydraulically driven aerial in the city. Everything prior to this was gear or spring driven wood aerials. Predominantly tiller companies from back in the day, straight bodied tillers, and then actual, tillered combination pieces like this. But this was our first hydraulically driven aerial. The city ran it, up through the 60s, 70s, in the late around 77, 78, it went into reserve status, if I remember correctly. The city held on to it until 1982, 83. And we had several members on the job from the Mount Joy Fire Company, which is a Lancaster-based fire company close by. They had wanted to get into the truck business. So a couple of those members shystered a deal with the city, and they traded 3 air packs for the truck. City lined a deal up. They got the aerial, and I believe they put about $13,000 into it. This would have been 82, 83. I know one of the outer flies was damaged. They had to fix that. They did some engine work to it, but they put it in service and ran it as their first truck company. Ran it for about a decade. It was around 92, 93 when they sold it. They put it in the Lancaster Fireman. I believe it was, I have an actual copy of the Lancaster Fireman. I believe it was listed for like $5,500. And then Jan Roush was the lady that bought it. Her and her husband, Bill Roush, live out in Michigan, and they only buy. At least what they told me one time was they joked around. They only buy Pennsylvania rigs. They said that we got the best fire trucks. So she wanted.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. So she wanted a tiller truck. So they found it in Lancaster Fireman, bought it from Mount Joy, and they drove it back to, I believe they live just south of Flint, about 20 minutes, a half hour below Flint, up above Detroit. They said that they took 2 days to drive it back. It rained both days. When they parked under overpasses, the tillerman was still out in the rain. But and they had it for, I don't know, whatever it was, 14, 15 years, up until I wrote them a letter. It was her baby. She loved it. So when I wrote her a letter, they called me back, got a hold of me, said that they weren't really looking to sell it. If I remember correctly, Bill, I think, told me that, they had a bunch of money into it. They weren't even thinking about selling it. If they would, it would be, it was a big number, like, I don't even remember, $30,000 or something. I said, oh, that's okay. Just keep it. But, keep me in mind. I'm trying to get the firehouse, just tracking this down. So super nice people, talked to them, gave me a call back. That was not the process with the fire company. So at least I was getting somewhere. And it was a couple months later, Jan got a hold of me, and they said that, if it was going home, they would be willing to sell the truck. My oldest and my wife and I went out and visited, take a look at the truck. I think I sent you one picture with Bill on the turntable. We were actually out in Michigan. They had the little town that they live in, they bought the firehouse in town. They had built a new building. They had bought the old firehouse, and they had all their fire trucks in that little building. And I believe at the time they had 8 rigs. And I believe most of them, they were all that's it. They were all Pennsylvania rigs, but this was her baby. So looked at it. Everything was great. Little history on the tractor, looking a little better than the trailer. Bill and Jan are huge in the Frankenmuth muster. Okay. up in Michigan. If you've never been there, it's a fantastic muster. They don't give out awards or anything. It's just show up. They have great rigs, steamers every year pumping. Frankenmuth itself is its own little tourist attraction. Just an awesome. If you're into the span for musters and stuff like that, put it on the list. But very big in that circle. And one year they were taking the truck up, and they basically blew the motor up. So if I remember correctly, they left the trailer in a train museum, and they took the tractor home and totally redid the tractor. So they redid the motor, all new paint, gold leaf. You see the tractor, totally redone, immaculate, and the trailer still original condition, but they are both original to each other. That's why the trailer is still in original condition. So talked to them. They weren't in a hurry to sell it. I asked them for some time. So came home, sold some 4-wheelers and things that I didn't really need, and to get some money together. And I made the decision to trailer it home. I wasn't going to drive this thing, home. And this would have been '08. Lined it up. I think it was springtime of '09 when it actually came home. And it didn't come back to Harrisburg. My parents live down in a small town called Fawn Grove off the Maryland-Pennsylvania line. That was the only place I had to keep it. And I know storage is one of your questions. So I told Mom and Dad, I said, hey, this thing's coming home. They're thinking fire truck. I don't think they were thinking 45 feet of love, but this thing comes off the step deck, and Dad helps me get it up the hill, and we backed it into the barn at their house. But and that was '09. So
now at this point, you didn't have the firehouse yet, right?
No, still working on the firehouse. Actually, kind of while this was playing out and getting delivered. The firehouse was getting some traction, but it would play out. Halloween of 2010, we actually closed on the firehouse. But that wasn't even an option. Even at that time, the building was vacant for 30 years. It closed down in 80, and it was basically just used for storage. The second floor was just basically a 3,100 square foot pigeon coop. We couldn't even put the truck in the first floor. I'd have to look up the timeline, but it was definitely into probably 2011 when we got windows replaced, got the first floor cleaned out. We could actually bring the truck home and start keeping it in the firehouse. So went to mom and dad's, and we had some stuff to do to it anyway. They had totally redone the 707 gas engine, so it ran good. The trailer needed the brakes done, so none of the trailer brake system worked at all. So me and a friend went through that. We replaced all the stainless steel lines, did the wheel cylinders and brake pads on the trailer. Had to get a new master cylinder diaphragm on the trailer replaced. So that was the first thing we got done. Got brakes working, and she would jerk to a stop. So all that was good. And then really the next immediate thing that I focused on was getting it labeled back to the original Harrisburg lettering. So in the Fire Bureau, up until the late 50s, they put the volunteer company name on the hood of the apparatus. So, and this actually, if I remember correctly, Dave will correct me if I'm wrong. This was the last truck to get labeled with the volunteer company on the hood, Allison. So after this, everything just got Bureau of Fire Harrisburg on the hood panels. So when I got it back from Bill and Jan, they still had everything was labeled as Mount Joy. They had a big Spanish galleon on the driver and passenger door, which I hated to take it off, but I wanted to take it back to original. And in the Bureau, we just had 1-inch block style lettering. So I got a hold of Dick Cray, actually, from Progress. And he helped me get in touch with Dale Snyder. And I think I sent you a picture of Dale, but Dale was, if you're a Mac person, Dale, there he is. Dale was the gold leaf guy at the Mac factory. I started in the late 60s, and he worked at the factory. He gold leafed all the fire trucks coming out of the Mac factory. Years later, he had a small farm in Macungie, and they would actually bring the rigs to him, and he did them there at his farm. He had a barn, had everything set up in there. So Dale, Dick got me in touch with him. He was still doing a couple pieces here and there, but he basically had to know somebody. Thank God I had Dick. He got me in touch with him. I took him out to him, and he redid the Allison and the HFD 12s on the doors for me, which was pretty cool because Dale, he did fire trucks at Mac up until 83, 84 when they stopped producing fire trucks at the factory.
That's outstanding.
Yeah, that was the two big things that initially get trailer brakes, get it lettered back to original HFD, what it looked like. And we took it to pump primers that year, and our basically best in show at the pump primers is the Dave Buskey Award. So Dave was one of the founding members of Pump Primers, our local chapter here in Harrisburg. And basically, it's the contestant's favorite. So everybody that registered for the show gets to vote for the rig, their favorite rig that year. And we got basically best in show that year. Half the time, I don't even submit my paperwork to be voted on anymore. That was a huge thing for us. And the Buskey family was very big involved in helping us get the Allison and get a lot of this stuff back. So that was really nice. But that was our first year at Pump Primers with the rig. And if I remember correctly, that's where this photo right here came from.
Now you said a number of times bringing it home, That the station, and we'll get more into that as we talk. But that station that you were after, that was the station that this truck was housed in, correct or no? When
Yep.
it was still in service.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, the Allison Hook and Ladder is out on Allison Hill in Harrisburg. It was originally created in 1905. It was the charter. And basically, the citizens just got together and they're like, we need a ladder truck on the hill. We only had one ladder truck at the time back then. It was the Mount Vernon, and it was basically down where the Capitol is. So you figure horse-drawn era, that was quite a haul. So citizens got together, donated some land. They built the firehouse in basically two sections. They built a little back portion. They didn't even have a ladder truck at the time. But basically, they got adopted into the city. And the way that worked was these volunteer organizations, as they got recognized by the career fire department, the fire bureau, that's how you got your number assigned to you. So the Allison is the 12th company that was recognized by the career department. And when they got recognized, they got funding from the city and they built the rest of the firehouse. So you'll see our cornerstone says 1909. Basically 08 and 09, they built the rest of the firehouse.
That station is from even before it was part of the municipal department. That was the volunteer station.
Yep. Okay. It actually, and we have pictures of that. They basically built 3 brick walls and a soft wall, expecting to get adopted in. They could tear down that soft wall and just add on. And we actually even have a picture from that time period, 1907, where they just had a locomotive tire on the roof of the building. A lot of people don't even know that. Like back then, a locomotive tire is just the steel ring that they would put on old steam engines.
That was the gun, right?
Right. So they would build a wood structure and hang this locomotive tire from it. And they would just have a bolt through a handle of a hammer, and they would pull the rope, and it would make the hammer smack the tire, and it sounded just like a bell. And we have pictures of that, but that was 1907. They basically had that, and then, like I said, the cornerstone there says 1909. That was when the building was actually finished. And this truck would have been the 4th ladder truck that ran out of that station. We originally got the old truck from the Mount Vernon. It was a 3-horse pull. They switched it to a 2-horse pull and gave it to the Allison. They got a brand new truck. And they originally were going to build the station in a 2-bay configuration. Sometime during those 2 years, that changed, and they just did a single bay. But they always wanted to put an engine in there also. So we've always had an engine. They did put a stamped ceiling in it. I don't know if they were originally planning to put a steamer in there or not. But what we did originally have was a chemical engine. And it was a 2-horse pull also. So and you can still see where the horse stalls were on the walls where the horses kicked the bricks. But they basically sat, ladder truck was in the back. The chemical engine sat directly in front of it. They were right down the middle of the firehouse, horse stalls off to the sides. And we had those 4 horses lived in the firehouse up until October 10th, 1917. Cap Colonel Alfred and Frank were the 4 horses. So, but the ladder truck prior to this was a 1935 BQ Mac. And that truck is at the National Fire Museum in the city. Now, the tractor's not original. There's a long story with that, but basically it blew up. The later fire company decided to go with a Dodge. The museum gets it. They want to get back to original, so they got 3 BQ Macs, parted them out to build that tractor. But visually, it's correct. It's a BQ Mac, but it's at the Fire Museum. You can see that truck. This truck replaced it in '57.
Okay, tell me more about this truck. The tractor, the trailer, the aerial. I mean, uh, this was the first hydraulically operated aerial in the
Yep.
city. Okay, we'll
Yep.
talk about that again, and then you already gave the year, but what was the model of this again?
It's a B model.
Okay.
It's a B model, B85 Mac with a 85-foot Maxim aerial. And most of the B model aerials, and we know about of 5 still in existence. Most of them are 100-footers. This one was a bit of an oddball. They got it as an 85-footer. I believe metal to metal, it's 42 feet long. With the ladder sticking out the back, we're right under 45 feet long. It weighs 33,000 pounds. It has a Max 707 in it. The hydraulics need some work on it, but basically, up until we had a line of duty a few years ago, we had it set up as arches with the museum's truck. We would do arches for various things, parades, obviously, is what we use it for. But an accident happened with the aerial. Some of the valves were locked out, and somebody was trying to put it away and blew a bunch of our seals on the cylinders. So we just got to get the lift cylinders and the extension cylinder redone, and the aerial will be good. Up until that point, we'd put it up. I'd test it out. I just put it up for a week or two and leave it, and it would never creep off or anything. Everything works on it. Now, couple years, I've had it since 2009, and we did have to get the heads done on it one time. They had little brass inserts around the valves, and I think one or two of them came out and it spitted out the exhaust, but it was running rough. So we got the heads done on it, and she fires up right now. I mean, she can sit all winter and just pull the choke out, and she fires right up. But yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is just getting somebody on the back end. You always have to have a second driver moving it around. My biggest fear with this thing is just having a breakdown somewhere else, right? Like, it's not just tow it home. You can't lock the steering out on the trailer. I've seen other people, they just take a bunch of ratchet straps and try and lock out the trailer as straight as possible, but it's always kind of drifting to the side to some degree. So that's the thing that keeps me up whenever I'm running this thing around. Like, God forbid, we break down somewhere. I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to get this thing home? But knock on wood, she's rock solid. She always does us good. I lost a tube in a tire one time, had to have emergency call out for that. But nothing driving wise. But yeah, it's been good.
How hard is it getting parts for something like that? I mean, it's a Mac engine that's obviously not made anymore. I mean, are you just relying on Spanful for that, or just your connections and stuff through there, or does Ricky take some time of work sometimes to do some research for you to find stuff?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. You're trying to source some of these things down. I remember when we were doing the trailer brakes, this diaphragm that we were looking at was this huge rubber diaphragm on the trailer, and I was using local resources, some of the old timers in the area that redo rigs, and they said, contact this guy. And, he bought a bunch of the Bendix parts when they were going out of business. And it took me a couple months, but I found this diaphragm, and the guy had 2 of them. And I don't even remember what he wanted, but I was like, I'll take them both. Yeah. And engine parts, I've had a couple friends had 707s, gave us, heads and different parts and pieces in case, God forbid, if we ever needed them. So I got them sitting in the basement at the firehouse. Knock on wood, we've never needed them. But it is definitely an issue, sourcing some of these things. And, even when we were trying to get the heads done, trying to find somebody that was willing to work on it. Everything, modern trucks have so many electronics and things, like most of these old guys just most of the newer guys, I should say, weren't even familiar with even timing a truck with, dual ignitions, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So just stupid little things like that. But yeah, definitely that is part of it. I have an engine also. Hope Firehouse in the city had a B model engine that we got, and there's 3 versions of 707 engines that Mac made. The engine is if I remember it correctly, it's a B95, and it had the 707, but I think it was a 707A. And, we talked about, we're just going to swap it out for a Mac diesel. A lot of the guys are getting the turbo, I can't remember if it's a 657 or 637 Mac diesel. The block basically was the same for their small diesel engines, and they fit perfectly in the B models. A friend of mine's redoing one, already did it. So we're going to put a diesel in that, just because the diesels are still a little hard to find, but they're a lot better than the 707. Mac put the diesels in all their commercial trucks, so they made millions upon millions of those trucks, where they put a lot of 707s out there, but they're just few and far between finding reliable parts, if you will. So definitely, if you have a major issue like that, you almost have to consider upgrading or putting something a little newer in, just for convenience. One thing we did do with this truck, the tiller, was a good friend of mine from out in Michigan sent us a bracket so we could swap out the old paper oil filters. Finding oil filters back then was miserable. And he said, just take that oil filter bracket off. The block is already threaded. You can just put hoses right into it and run a Wix filter. So he bent up a bracket for me and mailed it to me, and we swapped out. And just something simple like that was a huge. I remember for months trying to find these damn, paper filters for the old style oil filter. So there is some with that, but if you're going to get into this hobby, that all of this is part of it, right? Like, it's not just jumping in it and driving down the road. Like, you spend hours making sure it can drive down the road, and it's going to stop when it needs to. But that's all part of it.
What kind of budget do people look? You don't have to give me yours necessarily, but around about, if you're looking to get into this, like you were just saying, what do you look? Just for upkeep, just to keep the thing running, not going up to Allentown for pipe poles and all kinds of stuff to outfit it. What are you looking at just to sort of like keep the thing on the road, keep it going? Because you're thinking about tires, brakes, all these other mechanical components. How often are you going through them?
Yeah. Well, don't ever buy your own firehouse, because that will blow said budget. But yeah, the biggest thing people, obviously storage and insurance. And I want to say insurance for the truck is $250 a year. I'm sure you could, if you had an engine or something smaller, it might cost a little bit less. I think I have it insured for $30,000 worth of coverage. But that's a fixed number. It hasn't really changed over the years. It's right there around $250. But yeah, it all depends on condition of the rig too. This thing was in pretty good condition when I got it. But there are still things to do, upkeep, going brakes all the way around. There's some places that offer lifetime warranty. I've used White Post Restorations for all my brake efforts. And there's a lot of resources out there. You had said about Spanfa before, and they are a great resource. If you remember, they have a lot of resources listed. But you blink and it starts adding up really quickly. Even these older rigs that, have some type of these older split rims, you're looking at tires and tubes. It's not, that time I blew a tube. It was emergency call out on a Saturday. I was trying to go to a parade, And, the tire company came out and he's like, if you need a tire, you're screwed. If you need a tube, we got a tube for you. And thank God, it was just a tube. But an $18 tube cost me $500 on a Saturday afternoon. And we didn't get to go in the parade. But, yeah, I mean, and buying a bigger truck like a tiller truck is not for the faint of heart either. Maybe get a smaller engine or something like that. But, like I said earlier, that's all part of it. Like, being willing to deal with it. I mean, there's been plenty of nights, the night before a parade, we realize something's not working right. And I'm under there, people are coming to the firehouse, hanging out and visiting. And I'm under that thing on a creeper trying to figure out brake issues or something like that. But it's all part of it. And you almost have to want to do that part of it also, or you'll get frustrated with the hobby real quick.
How much of the work can you do yourself? Like you personally, I mean, me, I could buy one and I would have to take it somewhere all the time to get it done. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't, I grew up on a farm. I knew how to run things. I really knew how to fix things. And then even in my adult life, I didn't have any real good skill sets. I was a paramedic. So fixing mechanical engines or something wasn't really in my forte. But, thankfully, especially these older rigs, they are pretty basic. I mean, obviously, compared to modern stuff. I mean, unfortunately, sure, those can't really do anything unless you're a mechanic. These older rigs you can learn pretty easily on, YouTube, and videos are a great asset. Fixing the firehouse up. I'm now a master plumber from watching YouTube videos and doing various things with the firehouse. But, this age rig, they still run pretty good. Once you got them running good, there's not a whole lot of upkeep. But they're pretty easy to work on, or still finding, somebody to help you out with them. The interesting thing with this is, like I said, the guys that were used to working on this particular rig are in their 80s now. And the younger generation, some of them still are familiar with those older rigs like that. But, we've had electronics and so much crap on these fire trucks now. Those mechanics are just used to a whole different animal. But they are pretty basic and easy to figure out for the most part.
Those guys that are in their 80s, I mean, they probably worked on it back in the day, no?
Yeah, well,
if they were in the shop, if they were in Harrisburg's shop, were any of them like employees of the fire department?
Yeah, we had master mechanics, and actually, when I was having some valve issue with this, it was running a little rich. It loaded up, one time, and I was driving down the road, and I guess it was running a little rich, and it built up in the exhaust and it let loose. It sounded like a bomb went off, shook the whole truck. I was like, oh my God, what just happened? And it totally peeled the whole back of the can apart. And our actual master mechanic was still alive then. I got a hold of him, and he's like, oh, he said, I don't even know why it has an exhaust on it. They're just used to being straight piped. I was like, good enough. So we just threw some 4-inch pipe on it and straight piped her and keep running her. But it's funny when we were doing the brakes on the trailer, I was cursing, some of the mechanics up and down because the pile of old wires that we had, something would stop working or whatever. It's just like they ran a new line. They didn't try to fix anything. They just keep it on the road as fast as possible, slap whatever they ever needed to. And when we did the brakes, we cleaned all that up. We literally had a pile of just wires and things that ran nowhere or were cut here. And it was crazy. But yeah.
Is that your department's philosophy there, Ricky? Just keep adding wires in there for your shop?
Yeah. I mean, I know, Chris, you and I talked about it for, 2 years now, about talking about this firehouse and this fire truck. And I actually went and interviewed Jason and recorded it. And And I started writing, and I'm like, man, I just can't do this any justice. He has to tell the story. I mean, he knows everything there is about that building, everything there is to know about that truck, and there's no way print was going to do that. So I mean, that's why, I was like, finally, I'm gonna twist his arm and get him to get on video and get this out there. I mean, this history. I mean, he undersells it so badly. All of us that are social members of the Allison, like myself and everything, he's living our dream. I mean, he's living my dream. I mean, if I tried to tell somebody in my life I wanted to buy a firehouse, oh my God. And look, and when he said that place was full, he is not lying the least little bit. Just the amount of junk and oil and stuff that's in that firehouse. And you go into that place today, and it's just phenomenal what Jason's done, his family's done, the members of the Allison have done. I helped them out with a check more than I helped them out with my manual labor. But it's just incredible. I mean, Chris, show them like the picture of the upstairs there. It's just where the bar's at.
Yeah, even that picture there with the ceiling, we literally just did all this on the first floor. Originally all that brick was painted green. In the early 50s, the fire department got and our historian Dave Halsey just put an article up. He found the article in the newspaper. They got 650 gallons of OD green paint, old World War II paint, and they painted all the firehouses. And they sold it as this beautification of the fire companies in the city. And they literally painted every brick, the ceilings, the walls, everything upstairs, gutting the second floor to redo everything. We got rid of that. But downstairs everything was green. And it was all lead-based paint. It was peeling off. It was a nightmare. And literally, the fire company just took on the project. They had the entire first floor sandblasted. And it was over $30,000 project. Sandblasted all the brick, all the ceiling. We repaired the ceiling. Then we had a commercial bridge painter actually came in and painted the ceiling. And we went with that like a metallic flake color. We tried to keep it as original to stamp tin. But that picture is the finished ceiling with the red brick back. But it hasn't looked like that since the early 50s. So yeah, there's been a ton, and like Ricky said, this has not been an overnight thing. This has been the last 15 years. That actual bar back is the original gear lockers from the firehouse. We have the receipt from the fire company buying it in 1912 for $75. And where the TV was originally 4 tall lockers. So each guy on the ladder truck and the chemical engine had a small locker in the corners and then 1 tall locker. And we talked about throwing, I wanted to chop it up and just throw it away. When we had it on dollies rolling it around the second floor after we got all the pigeon crap out of there. And just kind of overwhelmed with where to start or what to do on the second floor. I thought about chopping it up numerous times. And then one time coming upstairs, I was like, man, if we took those lockers out in the middle, it would make the perfect bar back. And just knowing a bunch of the firehouse, I love Schuylkill County. If you're familiar with them in Pennsylvania, it's like going back in time up there. All the towns have 4 or 5 companies. They all have hosies attached to them. And the bars basically keep the fire companies active. They'll still have 4 or 5 little fire companies in town, and they're all still thriving because of the bars. And I was like, it'll be neat to put a bar in here. And that part of the floor was damaged really bad from a long time roof leak. So we cut the middle lockers out and basically, put that up on the wall, and we built the bar around it. And I always tell people a lot of the woodwork. I wanted to keep everything as original as possible in the firehouse. And that bar back, I had about 130 hours into stripping it, sanding it, staining it, polying it. And that was the first thing I really did. It was wintertime. I put plastic down. I was like, give me something to do over the winter. And after I got it done, I was looking at all the doorways and I'm like, oh my God, there is just endless amount of wood in this place. And I hate painted wood. I was like, I'd love to make all this stained again, but the amount of hours that is into that is, I don't even like talking about it. It makes me sick. But yeah, it's well worth it. It's been a labor of love for a lot of people, not just me. And honestly, we couldn't have got it. It is where it is today because of everybody's involvement. Even if they just came and visited us and supported us at an event or something like that, it's really been a long-term project that it's just been fun for everybody. And I always joke around that if you build it, they will come. And we've had fabulous get-togethers there. With Fire Expo in Harrisburg every year. Before COVID and the Fire Expo was really thriving, we would have 500-600 people there in one night. And, it'd be people from New York or LA or anywhere in the country that were there specking out rigs or looking at things at the Fire Expo. And then they would come to the Allison afterwards. And so, yeah, it's been a unique thing. You get to meet a lot of people, a lot of people think they know me. They don't, they know the Allison. I'm just one of the faces with it. And Ricky does a lot better, talking about things and being the face of things. I'm totally content being in the background and not seeing me.
So when you say the Allison, what does that mean? So like Ricky mentioned, being a member of the association. So kind of put it all together for me. You own the truck, you own the building, I think, but there's also this overarching association. Does it go all the way back to the fire company from the start? Explain that part to me.
Yeah, sure. It is a little bit different scenario. So saving the building, the guy that basically got it for me was Barry Buskey. He was an original Allison member, and he was on the job, and he was a politician fireman. He was the local president for years. He was the state association president for over 20 years. He was just, with the Capitol here, he was just that guy. And being an Allison member, he's the one that really made this happen for me. It took about 5 years. I got hooked up with Barry around 04, 05. And he said, this will take some time. I was thinking maybe a year. I didn't realize it was going to be 5 years, but he's the one that really pulled it all together for me. And basically, it got to a certain point where we were getting all this stuff done with the building, and we were bringing all these grand ideas that we had were coming to fruition. He's like, I want to save the company also. Not really thinking about what that entailed at the time. I always was, when they were working out the sale of the building, I think there was, this would have been like 05. There was probably like 8 guys still alive. They had that's a whole nother story, but basically just getting those guys together, they needed a wheelchair van for one of them. It wasn't logistically, it was actually an issue. And they had to get together and have legit meetings to conduct business. By the time they got to the point of actually selling the building or deciding to sell the building, it was the only asset that they had left. 2 members had died. So now they were down to 6 surviving members, and legally to have a quorum for company business, they needed 7. So they had to reorganize. Geez. They had to elect all new positions. That's literally a whole nother story in itself. It's ridiculous. It was like sleepless nights. Like, I know they're supposed to have a meeting tomorrow. I was like, oh my God, please don't let anybody die. Let them all get there safely and talk about it. Like, it was crazy. But Barry was very much, he wanted to resurrect the company. And while I always thought it would be cool, with my investment into it, I was like, oh, I'd like to be an Allison member. So we, resurrected the company. We started electing new members. We redid our charter. We changed the fire company to a 501c3. We did everything. And the Allison's always been an active company in the city. We have 3 active companies in the city still to this day. We've been a combination department since the 1800s, when we got our first paid guy back in the 1800s. So, the Allison Hook and Ladder still exists. It's an active company in the city. We all the events and things. My goal is to get everything back to the fire company, and a lot of people are always interested in this aspect of it. I just wanted to save the building, loving history and stuff like that. Like, in the collector world, a lot of these guys are like, I got something you don't have, and it's very territorial, and I've never really liked that too much. I just wanted to save everything. I wanted to get it all back together, and we've done that. And the goal, I've never envisioned like, oh, the Lloyd family will, get this down the road another 100 years. Like, that has never been my goal. I think when I got started, I was just trying to save the building. And then I was like, oh man, I really need to think about like, what is the long-term strategic planning for this? So the fire company, I was like, okay, I can get behind this. Like, it's going to be a lot of work, and we'll get this thing stood up. And goal is now to get the fire company in a place where they will have this and maintain it for hopefully another 100 years down the road. So, I always tell everybody I'm just a card carrying member, but, they try and always include me on executive board decisions and stuff. I'm like, listen, I'm just a member. Like, you are the leadership. You got to make your own decisions, but, they are their own legit company. All the events we do is the money raised and stuff like that goes to the fire company. I even getting the company stood back up and doing all the paperwork and legal changes and stuff like that to really bring us in, to modern times. It was up until about 2 years ago. Like, I was still paying all the bills. The company was having all their monthly meetings there, and I was still paying all the utilities. And it just got to a point I was like, all right, guys, we need to, figure something out here. You guys you're going to break me. But, the fire company is basically up on its own 2 feet now. For about the last year and a half, 2 years, they've been paying the utility bills. They have their own insurance. I have my own insurance because I technically still do own the building. But, I've donated. I own some of the neighboring property. I've donated that to the fire company. One of the previous members owned some of the other lots around the building. They've bought that from his family. So the fire company owns all the property around the firehouse now. The engine that you've seen, I'm donating that to the fire company. But obviously I got a little too much into the firehouse to just donate that. I wish I had it like that I could just donate it to them. But the long-term goal is to get everything back to the fire company. All the items in the Allison are from all 16 companies in the city originally. It's not just Allison stuff. I do like that, it's just Harrisburg stuff, but it's from all the different companies. And, that we have 2 of the poles installed in the firehouse. We believe we know where one other one is. We believe we know where the 4th pole is, and hopefully someday we'll have all 4 poles back in. But, that's the ultimate goal. They are up and running, and like any company, they have those issues and struggles like any company. But that's where we're at with
it. That's really interesting. So how big is the membership now?
I don't know what the actual number is. We're probably around 50 members. People always ask about it, and I said, I usually tell people, the company does keep things pretty close to the chest. We got members like Ricky from out of state. Some of our leadership drives several hours to every meeting to conduct the meeting. It doesn't matter really where you're at. If you're willing to commit to it, if you love the fire service that much, that's who we want. So, the unique thing with it was because during the renovations of the building and everything, people wanted me to start posting things on social media. And we did that. And obviously over the last 15 years, we've built a decent following. And, people, it's not the normal situation, right? So people are like, oh, I can be a member. And it's like, nah, it's like, we don't have social members. We have active and contributing. And, if you're going to show up and conduct business and help us out, more than welcome. But if you just want to support us, like come to our event and just come, support us. Yeah, I mean, we're at like 50 people, 50 or so. And, these people, are committed and want to see the project move forward. And like I said, it's obviously a unique situation. You got most volunteer companies, struggling and we still have the same problems everybody else does, but we do like keep it pretty close to the chest. Like, hey, we don't have a social club. You can come to our social events and support us, but if you want to be a legit member and you're going to come do stuff, more than welcome.
Okay, interesting. Wow, that is a unique one. This is how unique are you to in the country? I mean, are you like a one of a kind? The way this is working, or do you know of any other organizations like yours?
I know a couple people that have firehouses. Obviously, you've seen a bunch of them across the country where people get them and retrofit them into their residence. Mm-hmm. But actually, I don't know of anywhere else where they're resurrecting and preserving the company also. I think it's pretty rare to see the original rig in the firehouse also. I do know of a local guy that has an engine in a firehouse, and it's fixed up as his residence. To the extent we're doing and trying to preserve the company as well as the building, the rig, and the history, I don't really know of that anywhere else. Yeah. I mean, Ricky is the world traveler. I mean,
yeah, it's unique. It is one of the most unique places, and I think even the people that have more gray hair than I do that are members there will tell you that just how unique it is. And I'm a T-shirt salesman. That's what I do for the Allison. I sell T-shirts once a year and try to help out. But the amount of history in that city, and even in Harrisburg, I mean, I can remember going there in the 80s with the Whelans, Tom and Jim Whelan from outside there, outside in Middletown, and just astonished by it. And then I get to meet Jason, and the amount of history is just that Pennsylvania and Harrisburg captures and keeps, and it's there and for people to see. I mean, like when the people come for the event after Pump Primers or the expo, it's like you need to go upstairs and look in the cases, because Jason has collected all this history from the Harrisburg Fire Department. And it was funny because Jason found me what year was that helmet, Jason, that you found me? Let me see. That's from like the 1800s or early 1800s or something. And they have a receipt for it. I mean, who keeps a receipt for a helmet from the 1800s? I mean, but apparently Pennsylvania, they do. So.
Yeah, how far do your archives go back, Jason? I mean, like, do you have minutes going all the way back to the beginning, like minutes from meetings and stuff?
Yeah, career department, I believe it's something to the effect like 1887 was our first paid guy, badge 1. The volunteer department goes back to the 1700s. The Friendship was our oldest number 1 engine company, but the museum uptown, the old Riley Firehouse, they renovated the old Riley Firehouse number 10, and that's the Pennsylvania National Fire Museum in Harrisburg. And Dave Halsey, our historian, and his family was always huge in the history and documenting the history. So we've really been lucky. Like we've had these people in place over many decades, and his grandfather was the chief of the department. And his involvement, I went back, I believe, to the teens or 20s in the Citizens Engine Company, which was number 3. So they've always been very big in capturing that history, documentation, keeping that paperwork. We never got rid of it. So you can actually go to the fire museum uptown, and like the Allison, for example, we have all of our minutes books back to the founding, and that's how we find all this information, where they source different things. And we had, just the company had, paper receipts like Ricky's talking about. We have rig checks from the original ladder truck in 1912, handwritten rig checks. So yeah, I mean, there's, fire service wise, we've been very lucky that we've been able to hold on to a lot of it. And with pump primers and the antique show in July, the fire museum, the Allison, now covering some of that and being able to show people that aspect of it. It just works out well. And we've always been big proponents of, supporting everybody, and, pump primers. We try and do our part to support those organizations, and the fire museum. They have open houses and things related to, during these, fire expo or pump primers. So, yeah, if you love the fire service, we're one of the stops in the area, but we do have a fair amount of, historical things for you to see and experience.
Now, what about I'm not sure how so all this stuff that you're doing and the fire museum is doing, it really, I'm a big proponent of knowing, where you came from to figure out how you got to where you are now. And it sounds like you guys are perfectly set up to do that as a department. How many of the career guys are really pouring in there, or what are you doing to get that historical message out to the rest of the department? I guess kind of almost on a regular basis. It's a weird. I'm having trouble articulating the question. Just there's so much just in that building alone, along with what's in the museum. And how are you, I guess, getting out the importance of knowing all this history?
Yeah. No, I mean, the paid guys, I don't want to say they're around it all the time, but they are around it all the time. So I don't know if they just take it for granted, or it's like, oh, that's the museum's there, whatever. They're kind of experiencing it all the time. And we have a lot of the paid guys that are members in the different companies are involved to some degree. But, I think because they're around it so much, like it just seems like a lot of the heavy lifters are even outside the area. People like Ricky or some of our other members, they might not have something like this in their area, and they gravitate to it. And, I told Ricky before, and some of our fundraisers, like sometimes the history sometimes is a hard sell. The current guys, younger guys, they just want to go to fires. You got some guys that just don't care about the history. They're like, I want to go to fires. I want to go to as many fires as possible. And I can appreciate that. But, at the same time, you can't get this once it's gone. I'm much to the fate, I like an original rig as opposed to a totally redone rig. I mean, you can't put 60 years of history back on it, that scuff or that dent or whatever. But I'm a bit of a purist like that. Like I love the history, like anything, you got a lot of people that they're not really into the history. I would say probably the biggest thing that we are able to do is we try and foster the camaraderie and bring the guys together. And I think we try to do a good job with that. It might be a little bit of a struggle for me because in my day-to-day job in the fire bureau, I basically babysit, and they probably get tired of hearing dad or dealing with dad. So, but as a whole, You know, we try and foster that. You know, if you want to see about the history, if you want to know about it, experience it, kind of go back in time, if you will. You know, we're hoping to maintain that and keep it going for future generations. But, you know, they definitely are involved. And like I said, you know, they live and breathe it all the time. So I think they just take it as second nature. You know, a lot of people haven't seen it much, or they don't get to see it often. They're more wowed by it. Like, oh my God, I can't believe you guys are doing this.
Yeah, that's me. I'm wowed by it. So
it's a tremendous asset to have, you know, in the department, and the approach that you're taking with it. It is unique. I mean, you don't hear about a lot of guys, you know, buying the firehouse first and then buying the truck that was in the firehouse and then putting it all together.
I don't know. I don't know if I would recommend it either.
Well, I'll tell you, but I mean, just the contacts that you made, and was it Barry you said who wanted to preserve the company?
Yeah.
I mean, that to me is just, I mean, that's the critically important part, you know, and just the, you know, just the idea that this thing is still in service. You know, this company is still in service doing stuff, and I'm just saying it's weird. I'm sitting here thinking I thought we were just going to talk about an antique fire truck the whole time, and boy, this is going in a completely different direction that I really like, because this is honestly right up my alley. I mean, when I'm a member of a fire company just outside Philadelphia, and when we had our 100th anniversary, which would have been 2004, I wrote the 100-year history that we did for our book. I read through 100 years of fire company, you know, minutes, you know, business meeting minutes to do it. And I mean, I've been in love with it ever since, you know, and I mean, it's nice because I kind of know a little bit more about how we started and, you know, how we got to where we are. Thank God the early secretaries had good handwriting, because there was no way that I was going to be able to do that. But I'm sorry, Ricky, you were putting your hand up there. Sorry.
Yeah, I just want to make, you know, so I mean, and Jason, you know, and just so everybody's clarified that's going to listen, because it's just not going to be Pennsylvania and Maryland, is that we don't run out of the firehouse. The members that are there run out of the city firehouses.
Right.
Jason, just so I meant like the younger members.
Well, that's
not like the
yeah. Like, well, you know, we had some friends from Tennessee that would come up to various events, and, you know, unless you sit down and explain the scenario to people, they just don't understand, right? You tell them you're an active company, they're like, oh, I can join right here. You know, I own the building, and I rent the building to the company for $1 a year. So all the events and everything that they run, it's technically under them. We get small games of chance permits, liquor license, all that stuff. The members at the Allison actually run out of Station 2. That's the station I work out of, Wagon 4, Tower 1, and the battalion chief. So our members, our riding members, have gear lockers there. They ride. As a member of the Allison, you can ride anywhere in the city, but that's our assigned station. Because we have the firehouse, they have their meetings there, and obviously their fundraisers. It's a unique location, so they do everything there. But, you know, until you explain that to people, like we had 3 guys from Tennessee for like 6 months trying to join, and they thought that they rode that fire truck out of that firehouse, and I was like, no, like that's not the way this works. But
hey, it's a great idea, though. That's a really good idea.
So yeah, I mean, it's unique in the sense, like, you got to explain that to people, because it's not normal scenario, right? So
how do you get that fire truck in and out? I'm looking at that, and I'm looking at a door in the center, and I'm looking at a fire truck that's all the way off, you know, to the side. That's got to be a challenge.
It's easy because it's a tiller, but yeah, I mean, if we just parked it right down the middle, that would be even easier. But getting it around the backside of the watch desk is the only issue. But yeah, and like I said, even with the ladder sticking out of the back, it's only 40. It's a little under 45 feet long. You know what tiller is 45 feet long? bumper to bumper, it's right around 42 feet.
Do you have a full ground ladder complement on that as it would have been when it was in service?
Yeah, I don't know so technically it had all aluminum ladders on it when we bought it brand new in 57. So everything that's on it now is wood ladders. So when the city sold it in 82, 83, they wanted to get rid of all the wood ladders. So they put them on the truck, sent it to Mount Joy. And Mount Joy, for whatever reason, kept them. They put aluminum ladders on it. When they sold it, they put them back on also. And it was interesting when we were going through stuff, they were still stamped HFD. And even like some of the hand tools and equipment on the trailer, we had old pitchforks that they just took the neck and bent it over. And I was like, okay, pitchfork. And then you look on the handle, it was still stamped HFD. It was like an early LA trash hook. But our rigs in the city always had, they were color coded. So ladder 2 or the Allison truck was orange. And then after this truck, we got our first aerial scope ran out of this station right before the station closed in 1980. But Tower 1 still to this day is the Hill Truck Company, and their company colors are still orange. So all their equipment has an orange striping or painted orange, so you know what rig it goes back to. But yeah.
Well, Jason, thank you very much for doing this and sending all this out. Ricky, I'm sorry I did all the talking. I didn't give you a chance to even get a word in edgewise today.
There is no reason for me to talk when you got Jason Lloyd on here. My man's a plethora of knowledge in that head about that firehouse and that building and the place that so many of us love.
I'll tell you what, I need to get out there. I need to I got Christmas vacation coming up. I think I might have to. I have to make because I'm only in Philly, so it's a 2-hour ride for me to get out there. So Jason, I'll be in touch. We'll be
good.
We'll be talking.
Get a group together. The more the merrier. We love, like I said, it was just to save the building. It was really nothing else to begin with, and it's changed into a lot of other things since then, clearly. But we just love the history, and we hope that it's around for another 100 years to show people, and various groups stop by. Maybe someday we'll actually have, regular hours or be a dedicated museum, if you will. But we love the history and we love having people out and even, different functions. We had state instructors come over for luncheons. We'll host groups. We've had a variety of different groups come over the years. Fire Expo is probably the biggest. We have a lot of out of towners and we're in the city, so it's super easy to get people there. And, if you're into history and stuff, we'd love to have you.
Well, I definitely am. And when is Harrisburg going to make you the resident historian for the department?
Oh,
I don't know about I know this place. Hopefully Dave and his second in command is Brad Myers. He was a paid guy, and they were truck partners. But hopefully they're around for a long time. I know a lot of stuff, but I don't know nearly as much as they do. And
I found an art. I was looking through some old fire engineering magazines from 1960, and there's the fire that's on the front of Dave's first book. And it was an article about the fire. So I sent it to Dave. I said, Dave, I was just thinking about you. I saw this article, and I got 3 paragraphs, and this is the fire was this day, and it's just Dave's just, oh my God! If there's something about it here, follow him on Facebook.
Yeah, between the two of those guys, and Dave, if you follow us on Facebook, he routinely posts this day in Harrisburg, whatever year it was, 1800s, whatever big fire we had. He, they both utilize, I think it's newspapers.com or whatever, and they're pulling articles and photos from 100 years ago, and he literally posts history every day if you're into that kind of stuff, and it's unbelievable. You go down that rabbit hole, it seems endless.
But so the Pennsylvania State Fire Museum is what, 10 minutes away?
Oh,
10
not
minutes.
even that. It's
Yeah.
just on 4th Street uptown.
Yeah.
And yeah, they have they're only closed, I think, 1 or 2 days a week, but they're all totally ran by volunteers. The city technically owns it, but all ran by volunteers. It's the original Riley Firehouse number 10. Later years, they did run an engine and a truck out of it, but beautiful firehouse. Named my youngest son after it, and a fantastic museum. The only thing I don't like about them, if I had to say anything, they are a national museum, so they got fire trucks from everywhere and anywhere about the fire service. The thing I like about the Allison is we are just Harrisburg specific. So all of our 16 companies, typically we had as many as 16 active in 1980. There was 14, but we try and showcase all those different fire companies in the city. You go to the museum, they got fire trucks from everywhere, and it's an amazing museum. I mean, they really did it right. It looks nice. But yeah, a lot of history in one little spot if that's your thing.
Cool deal. Well, Jason, again, thank you very much for joining me today. Ricky, thank you for connecting us with Jason. I'm thinking this is going to be a repeat show at some point. We're going to have him back as you continue to make updates. What's that?
We'll do it from the firehouse.
Yeah.
I think that's an excellent idea, Ricky. You're speaking my language on that. Not too far away at all for it.
Person.
What's that?
I'm just glad we got Jason in person.
Yes. Well,
he's a really good speaker, in case you didn't notice already.
Oh, for sure.
He doesn't need me to help him.
I got to find new buttons to push to really get him him going.
After a 10-minute delay to just get me on here.
We'll work that out when we'll have that all figured out when we come to the Allison to do the next one. But Jason, again, thank you very much for joining us today. I'm gonna speak probably a little out of turn here, but if anyone has questions for Jason, let me know. I'm at Chris Mc Loone at clarionevents.com. If you have a question for him or about the Allison, let me know and I'll get it out to him and we'll get you an answer. Either that or I'll go through Ricky. We'll get you an answer somehow.
The Allison has the Facebook page, Instagram. You can reach out to those platforms and somebody will get back to you. Jason's got a good group there that helps with all that. So
yeah,
perfect. Well, as I always wrap up the shows, if you are interested in looking at previous episodes of Talking Trucks, they are all on our website at www.fireapparatus.com/podcasts. If you have a topic that you'd like Ricky and I to tackle, we can certainly do that as well. So let me know. Again, it's Chris Mc Loone at clarionevents.com. Otherwise, Happy New Year, everyone. I hope this set a real good tone for the Talking Trucks podcast for this year. And we'll see everybody again soon. Have a good one and stay safe. Thanks again, guys.